and welcome to my season 8 review of Doctor Who. You know I love getting dressed up for the Doctor Who reviews. Okay, you know, if you guys are new to my channel and you don't really know the scheduling of things, I react to the you know, entire season, sometimes the Christmas special, depending on kind of the placement of all of that. And then I go right into 1 week of doing a review of the season. If you guys are looking for the season 9 first reaction, that will be next week. That's kind of just how it is on my channel. Sorry if that bothers you, but this is how I do things. Okay. So the first bit of this review, I'm actually going to talk to you guys a little bit about some kind of just disclaimers. I didn't really know when to sort of talk about this, and to be honest, everything that happened during like Doctor Who December and Time of the Doctor, Day of the Doctor, all of that stuff, I really never got to kind of put this out there before season 8, so I'm going to talk about it now. And basically what I'm going to be talking about is the fact that I do know from now on when, well, I know when Clara leaves and I know when 12 regenerates. I don't know anything specifics about it, but I do know when they happen, okay? Obviously, it was kind of hard to avoid the fact that, you know, 12 regenerated this last, you know, and 13's coming. Like, so I knew that. So that whole kind of surprise factor that I had with 11, and I didn't really know when 12 would show up, that's, you know, not really the case. And also, I know when Clara leaves because of the fact, don't get out your pitchforks for anybody, it's nobody's fault. I know when Clara leaves just because, if this makes sense, that season, season 9, aired the summer, fall, sometime before I even started watching Doctor Who. And things were just kind of all over the place. I'm pretty sure I know down to the episode of when Clara leaves, just because it was all over the place. I don't know how she goes. I don't know any of that, but I do know that it was, I know her exit episode happened. I believe the name of it is Face the Raven, I think. And I know, it's just people were upset about it. I don't know. But anyway, that's all I know. But like I've always said with my channel, I like to keep you guys completely updated with what I know and what I don't know. The funny thing about the whole thing with Missy was that I just didn't, I did know it somewhere in the dusty corners of my brain that the Master turns into a woman. I felt particularly really stupid during that reaction, not figuring it out sooner, but I guess, I don't know what it was. I think maybe something to do with the fact that, you know, like, I was really intrigued by Missy. I never particularly liked the other version of the Master that I don't know. Anyway, I didn't put 2 and 2 together. If I did, I would have let you know that I already knew it. So I apologize for that, or knew that the Master turned into a woman. I didn't really know that it was Missy. Okay, so I kind of just wanted to get those disclaimers right off the bat going into season 9 so you guys can kind of just know. So I have a lot of notes here. I'm just going to dive right in. It's kind of interesting. This was one of the reviews that I feel like I was so excited to do because of the fact that sorry, allergies, because of the fact that you know, I felt like there was a lot going on in this season and there's a lot to talk about, so I'm really excited to just get right into it. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is the 12th Doctor and kind of just my feelings towards him and all of that. Now, the number one thing that I kind of want to say about the 12th Doctor is that I didn't want him to be like 11. There was like a lot of people thinking like she's gonna hate 12 because he's such a stark contrast to 11. I believe that that's true in some aspects. I think they're both really great actors, and I love that no matter what. But the thing is that like I wanted it to be a contrast. Could you imagine if we had somebody who had a very similar personality, similar traits or whatever to 11 coming after 11? I would have been like, bitch, who the fuck do you think you are? Like, really, like, sorry for cursing, but that literally would have been like, excuse me, you are not Matt Smith, stop trying to be like it. You know, like that would be kind of my attitude towards it. So I actually really like that it went in a completely different direction. For those of you wondering, do I have that same deep love and excitement watching the episodes? No, I don't. I love it. Or well, I like it. I read. I don't know. Everybody's gonna take every word I say very literally and be like, she hates it now. That's not the case. But do I have the same, like, there was just a real love I had for it when 11 was the Doctor. I might get there again, but it definitely is different, to say the least. What I will say is I really liked how they did actually, it's weird because I feel like with a lot of the other Doctors, even with 9 and 10 and 11 that I've witnessed, you kind of got a feel of who their Doctor really was right away. Within a few episodes, you kind of said, okay, I know, you know, what they're trying to get with this Doctor, the personality, the portrayal, and stuff like that. Whereas with 12, I believe that it was a little more of a gradual getting used to him, or even just the writers explaining who he is. It was not just like the first episode thrown in your face, because of the fact that I believe that 12 is slightly more complex when it comes to a lot of different aspects of his personality. They had to gradually show. I liked that it was very beautifully portrayed in Mummy on the Orient Express and Flatline. I feel like those two episodes really showed a lot of insight into what kind of Doctor Peter Capaldi is going to be. Does that make sense? But I really liked kind of the last, in the finale, where he kind of, the quote that is, sorry, I'm reading, I am not a good man, I am not a bad man either. Like all of that, I liked that. And I loved that I felt like Peter really delivered that line very, very well, and it gave a lot of insight. And it's weird because I feel like Peter's first season is a bit of an introduction into where they're going with his Doctor. I'm really excited. I think there is potential for a lot of exploration to maybe some sides of the Doctor that we haven't explored before, and that makes me really, really excited, to be honest. Okay, so that's kind of my thoughts and feelings and all of that on Peter. Now I'm going to go and talk about Clara. Clara. Everybody has such strong fucking feelings about Clara. Lord. Okay. Here's what I'll say, because a lot of people have questions. How do you feel about Clara? Do you like her? Do you dislike her? Do you da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da? Okay, the first thing that I'm going to say is I feel like around this time I'm going to accept defeat on the fact that I'm never going to really connect with Clara. That doesn't mean I don't like her, but I don't think I'm really gonna get there like I did, you know, with companions that I truly loved and had a deep connection with. I think, you know, out of kind of the female companions, Amy and Donna were two of the ones that I felt a real connection with. And that happened within a few episodes. It really didn't take very long. And it's so funny with Clara, because of the fact that she came after 11, Amy, and Rory, which is the dream team in my mind, maybe not yours, but in my mind, it was really they made me fall in love with the show. I feel like owe them a great gratitude or something like that because of the fact that they really did make me absolutely love the show, that dynamic. And there was so much pressure of like, from you guys, from friends, from whatever, of like, we have to give Clara a shot, you have to give Clara a shot, you have to give Clara a shot, and 12 and all that stuff. And I feel like I've gone in with an open mind. I am not somebody who's going to be like, you're not 11 or you're not Amy or whatever. But I think, so for so long I was really trying to say, nope, I gotta give Clara a shot, is whatever. But for some reason, I don't really connect with her that much. And I think I just have to admit it to myself. It's been about a season and a half. I think she has some moments that are beautiful. I think she has some moments that are really insightful to her character, really great. And then there are some moments where I'm like, not loving her as much. And she's so middle of the road for me. She's so, I don't even know, kind of, I just go back and forth with her. I swear, even within an episode, it's not even like this one episode I really liked her, but this other episode I didn't. And it's just like, I think within a single episode, I could be like, yes, Clara, yes, and then no, Clara, no. So I feel just a little back and forth. And what I will say, though, there's part of me that's slightly looking forward to maybe the next companion because of the fact that kind of yearning a little bit for that spark that I felt with 11, Amy, and Rory. I don't necessarily want Clara's story to stop here. And the reason is I want to get a firm feeling of just how I think about her. Like, I want to know, do I like her? Do I not like her? I want some closure and clarity. Okay, no, never mind. But anyway, from on her story from now on, I really kind of want that a bit, because I still cannot believe after a season and a half, I don't know. I think I like her. Maybe I don't. I have no idea. It's very indecisive. So I don't know if that's like just my personal feelings towards her character, if it's the writing a little bit, I don't know. Anyway, okay, so one of my favorite things that I did like about Clara's storyline with this season was the fact that she was kind of really struggling with her identity, which is probably one of the reasons that I was so back and forth with her, like, what in the world is happening? I feel like she was one of the companions that kind of went through a regeneration. And I did like the fact that they gave her a bit of a difficult time with it. Because, you know, between 9 going to 10, I feel like Rose had, you know, she really fell for 10 pretty quickly. And I like that they're showing kind of the other way that this can go, where it might take a little bit of time to get used to the new doctor, especially a doctor that is such a strong contrast to the previous. And so I think she was really struggling with trying to figure out how she felt kind of towards the doctor. Should she just get on and have a normal life with Danny? And I think she herself didn't particularly know how she was going to kind of go forward, what she should do, what's the right thing to do. But what I particularly loved about this plot line was the fact that they kind of talked about the fact that in all of her confusion and when you're kind of lost for trying to figure out who you are, I liked that they portrayed traveling with the doctor as being an addiction. That was one of the things where that final scene, now I did not particularly like that that was one of the moments I was not loving Clara as much in Mummy. I think it was Mummy, and then they talk about it being addiction. But I did love the idea that we're talking about the fact that it can be addicting. And are addictions really good? Not normally, right? I mean, in general, addicts doesn't have a great connotation to it. And I really love the fact that they want to explore this and explore how she is kind of coping with all of this, right? I think that that's really, really cool. And I'm partially, and I know that some of you might think I'm crazy, I don't know, but there's a part of me that would kind of love to see if they're going to actually have like a tragic downfall of Clara because of that. That would be really, really cool to me. I don't know if they'll go that route. It might be a little too rough and dark, and a lot of people like Clara. Maybe. But I would really love to see them explore that a little bit more. You know, if you get addicted to traveling with the doctor, does that have negative effects? And I really like that. I also liked that she kind of became desensitized a little bit to the fact that she was lying all of the time. And I loved the quote where the doctor says, you know, you made a great doctor, but that doesn't, goodness had nothing to do with it, or something along those lines. That was amazing because, you know, I mean, she's getting good at lying. I maintain that she was not the best at lying though. But I think that was just the portrayal of it or something, because like every time she lied, guys, she was just like, oh, well, you know, and I'm like, how does people not know? But anyway, that's not the point here. The point is that she really got desensitized to lying. It really became kind of second nature to her. And, you know, you can possibly think of that as a damaging behavior. And I love that that got explored. Now, you may not think that the lying was really a bad thing. It kept her to kind of go do what she loved doing, traveling with the doctor, and, you know, not really dealing with the mess with Danny and stuff like that. But nonetheless, I did like that they explored it, however you feel about it. Sorry, I'm reading my my notes. I think that it's going to be interesting to see kind of her final arc, her final season. Maybe she will more so come into her own for me. I don't know what's wrong with me and not particularly being super into Clara and her storyline, because some of my really good friends, she is their absolute favorite and they absolutely love her, but different strokes for different folks, right? All right. Now we are going to get into, I believe I'm gonna go and talk about Danny for a little bit. So, I've talked at length at the end of my reactions about how I feel about Danny and Clara as a couple. My main issue is I don't think it was executed that well. And I think some people agree with me, maybe other people don't. I think the ending of the season would have had a bigger and more significant punch if we saw them just for an episode or something have a bit more of a connection than I think they showed us. They kind of showed us them having awkward encounters. Some of them are cute, and you know, they showed them offending each other. And then there was the Caretaker episode, which, by the way, you know, I end these reviews on me talking about my top 5 favorite episodes. It was so hard to pick a top 5, and the Caretaker would have been, it was one of the ones that was just missed the cut. But anyway, I don't know. It was weird because I feel like they did a decent job portraying the complexity of the Dr. Clara, Danny triangle. And I think they fleshed out the Doctor's grievances with Danny and the Danny's grievances with the Doctor, obviously. But I felt like it was a little strange that we didn't get a whole lot when it comes to Clara and Danny, in the sense of them actually having a strong bond with each other. And maybe she was just clinging on to something that could have been a little more steady than traveling with the Doctor and stuff like that. But it was a little bit, you know, I think if the relationship was slightly more established, I would have thought the ending was really tragic and really sad. And you know what I mean? That's just my opinion. I don't hate Danny. I think a lot of people, the things I've read, people really hate Danny. I don't find him to be all that interesting. He's kind of just there. But I don't hate him. I don't have a strong dislike for him. I think it could be interesting if they explored it a little bit more, but I was just, you know, just not a fan of the relationship. And yeah, but what I will say is I did like how they ended Danny's arc when it comes to kind of the soldier aspect of Danny's arc. I talked a little bit at the end of The Caretaker that I loved the fact that they did such a great job of portraying kind of all of the issues that Danny had with the Doctor had with Danny, whatever. It was such a huge character development episode that I really enjoyed that. And what I love about, you know, so many people were so nervous about the soldier arc with me. Justifiably so. And I'm not going to get into it. I'm really not. I don't want to talk about it. Like, it just sucks sometimes when there's just like a subject that is really personal to you and really hits home, and you have to talk about it, and then a ton of people I don't know. Anyway, I'm not gonna get into that. But what I will say is I really loved that, you know, they portrayed the 12th Doctor's prejudice and Clara's a little bit. I mean, I found some of the things that Clara said more offensive, to be honest. But anyway, but they didn't really portray them that they were right or wrong in those assumptions, right? Well, sort of. So I really didn't have a huge issue with it, and I kind of just wanted it to be wrapped up really well. I feel like at the end of the finale, the Doctor and Danny had understanding. I'm not sure that they liked each other, you know, but I thought that they had an understanding, and the Doctor kind of came to terms with certain things, and when he kind of gave Danny the army. And I got emotional. It was really funny, and it was just a thought I had, and I didn't really talk about it too much during, because touchy subject, I guess, but I got emotional thinking of like it's all of the dead people. Now, it's probably not a huge factor, but there were probably a lot of soldiers in that Cyberman army, and that they once again kind of protected. Got me emotional. So if you saw me get emotional during that kind of whole thing, that's why. And I thought it was really a sweet way to end it. And the fact that Danny sent the boy back instead of himself, I mean, I thought they wrapped up Danny's character pretty well. Even though he never really, again, like grabbed me that much emotionally, and I didn't have a huge connection to his character, I liked how they wrapped it up, if that makes sense. And now we're going to talk about who I believe to be the shining star of the season for such a small amount of time. But yes, Missy, girl, yes, yes. She is going to make me love the master, I swear. Because I was never a big fan of it. Anyway, so there was something about her in the last 2 episodes that she was just like a breath of fresh air for me. I'm still getting used to 12's doctor. I do like him, and I do like Peter Capaldi. As I've stated, I'm a little like this with Clara. I'm a little like this with Danny. And she just made me so excited. I was just like loving her. She's awful and fabulous all at the same time, and I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I love a good villain, and I thought that in the 2 episodes that she was in, meaning more so in, I know that she had little Easter eggs throughout the season, but the 2 episodes that she was really in, I loved it. I looked at Michelle is the name of the actress. Love her portrayal. Impeccable. I was obsessed. I love that in just a couple of scenes and a couple of episodes, I was in it. I was ready for Missy in my life. And I don't really know. I think it was left slightly ambiguous at the end of the finale. If I don't know if she died or if she's coming back, or I don't know. It was sort of left a little, I don't really know. But anyway, I just loved her, and I hope that we see her again because, oh my goodness, it will be so great, and she'll be crazy. I mean, she's bonkers. She's absolutely bonkers, and I am here for it. Okay. I really did kind of feel myself getting kind of like giddy and excited, and that spark was alive in me again. Yes, Missy. Okay. Anyway, is there anybody else? I would love Missy and River to have some scenes together. It would just be too fabulous for words. Anyway, that's just my own. All right, so now I'm going to kind of get into a little bit of just sort of this season. I decided to do this review a little bit different going into the character because I felt like that was a good portion of what you guys wanted to hear my thoughts on, is how I felt about everyone. So I'm going into kind of the now darker tones of the season, the moral dilemmas. Now, I love that stuff. The moral gray area stuff is like where I live, and it's just my favorite stories have to do with things like that. I think they had a lot of that in this season. I think some were executed very well, some maybe not as much, if that sort of makes sense. I loved that we had examples, sorry, I'm looking at my notes. I love that we had examples of a harsher doctor. I don't really know if that's the best term to use, but it's, you guys know what I mean. Because I don't think that it was kind of weird at the end of Mummy on the Orient Express, and when Clara said, I'm forgetting the exact words she said, but you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but she said something like, oh, so you're not heartless, or so you do care. It was something like that. And I was like, girl, of course he cares. Like, it was kind of interesting that she didn't really get that. But because he is such a, you know, huge difference from 11, I mean, I guess I kind of get it, right? Sort of, a little bit. Okay. We saw examples of this in Into the Dalek. We saw examples of this in Time Heist. and Mummy on the Orient Express. There were probably other, but those were kind of the ones that really stood out to me. I think it was kind of set up pretty beautifully in Deep Breath that, you know, this doctor's going to be a little bit different. He's going to be a little bit, you know, he doesn't, probably the best way to describe it is he doesn't want to waste time comforting people, so to speak, because he needs, the more he can work on the problem, the more people he's going to save. That doesn't make him heartless, it just makes him slightly less, maybe compassionate in the moment, or maybe he is more compassionate. You can make an argue either way, like, you know, maybe he is more focused on, you know, we'll see. One of the best examples I liked, but however, the episode really didn't hit it out of the park, but was Kill the Moon. I liked the moral dilemma it set up. I liked the premise of Kill the Moon. You know what I mean? Like, I was on board with it. I was like, okay, throughout the episode. I really disliked the laying another egg thing. Was not my fave thing ever. I was just like, what? You guys can let me know how you felt about that, but I did like, and I thought, see, this is, I think Kill the Moon is a prime example of like interesting ideas but not executed the best. I didn't like the ending of the laying the other egg. The other thing was, I didn't like how they didn't flesh out Clara's grievances before her scene at the end where she kind of, you know, had a moment, so to speak. Let's say had a moment. Because I don't hate the idea of that happening. You know what I mean? Like, in Doctor Who, these companions do get put into kind of really intense and crazy situations. Some people can handle it better than others. That's the nature of humanity, right? But, and I didn't hate that, but I felt like it's still, even though I think maybe it was supposed to feel like it came out of nowhere in a sense, it did. I feel like I would have loved it if the episode showcased why Clara was having such a hard time with it before that scene. I feel like we would have really sunk our teeth into it a little bit more. That's just my own personal opinion about that. So I felt like there were a lot of episodes that were kind of similar to that, where great ideas, maybe not the best executed, you know, ever. I would say the most forgettable episodes for me of the season was Robot of Sherwood and In the Forest of the Night. I felt just not as great about them as I, you know, could have felt, should have felt, I don't know. They just weren't really my favorites, and they didn't really stand out in any good or bad. They were kind of just there. I mean, the ending to In the Forest of the Night was, I was very confused. I don't know. It was weird. But, and then I felt, but weirdly, I think both of those had a standout moment for me, and they were both conversations just outside of the TARDIS. Isn't that interesting? Anyway, but yeah, I mean, other than that, they weren't the most memorable for me. Okay, so what was really weird, I'm gonna go into my top 5 episodes very soon. What was kind of weird about these, choosing my top 5 episodes, I think I've changed this list like 14 times since I started working on this review, which was like a couple weeks ago or something like that. And the thing is I don't think there was really an episode that floored me, that I was like, oh yes, it was maybe 1 or 2, but also there were great aspects and not so great aspects in a lot of the episodes. So I thought it was kind of interesting to see, to try to decide which ones I really, really enjoyed the most. So the one thing, by the way, kind of known as one of the best episodes of the season, I think, is the Mummy on the Orient Express. That's not in my top 5. I don't entirely get the love for it. Now, let's be real. If you guys go back and watch my Mummy on the Orient Express reaction, I was deathly ill. It was so funny. Well, it wasn't funny. I was like dying. But I felt a little bit, what was the episode before that? Was it Kill the Moon? I think so. I felt a little weird during Kill the Moon, but I was like, okay, this is just random backstory behind the scenes. But like, I felt a little weird. I took a break before Mummy, got some water, like whatever. I sat down for Mummy, was feeling okay for like the first half of the episode. The second half, I felt like death. If you realize at the end of the episode that I did not look like I was saying much, it was because I was like trying to focus on not passing out or, you know, whatever, getting sick. It was a mess. After I stopped the recording, I tried to like force through my like final thoughts. I stopped the recording and I just died. For the next like 24 to 48 hours, I couldn't like stand. I couldn't. It was a mess and a half. But anyway, so when I first watched it and I said, I didn't think that it was that wonderful or whatever, I kind of said, oh, well, you know, I mean, maybe I just wasn't feeling well or whatever. But even when I went through, edited it again, watched it again for the review, it didn't really stand out to me as some others did. What do you know? Different strokes for different folks, am I right? Anyway, that was a long explanation of something you didn't ask for, but there you go. The one episode that I did want to kind of give a little shout out to that will not be in my top 5 is Time Heist. I love Time Heist. I feel like there's an episode in almost every season of Doctor Who that is not, I don't think, like my favorite. It didn't, you know, maybe it wasn't as like emotional or terrifying or whatever you want to call it, but it is one that I just rewatch a lot because I think it's a good time, a good, strong episode, and that's how I feel about Time Heist. I loved that one, and I feel like that's going to be the one for this season that I rewatch a lot. Okay, going into my top 5 episodes, number 5 is Deep Breath. I thought Deep Breath was a pretty good introduction of the 12th Doctor. I don't really know how well it was received, but for me, I will say I liked kind of the issues between Claire and the Doctor. Some people don't accept change as well as other people, and I kind of loved that they kind of took a look at that. The one thing that I will say, and I'm gonna start a campaign for Doctor Who to stop killing dinosaurs. I'm not about it. We need to have a dinosaur episode where I can be all like gleeful and happy because I fucking love dinosaurs, and then they don't die, okay? I'm gonna make t-shirts. Guys, we are going to start this campaign. The next season, we need a dinosaur episode, and we need it to, you know, not kill them, because I'm over that. Okay, so yeah, I would say that was my low point of that episode. I love the Paternoster gang. Whenever they show up, I live for it. Strax is everything to me. I love him. I love all of them, but whenever they show up, I just get really, really excited and happy, and I love it so much. So that's a big high for me. Peter's performance in Deep Breath was phenomenal. And I know that it is kind of mixed reviews about the cameo. I'm gonna say I liked it. Why did I like it? Because it's fucking Matt Smith. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, yes, of course, I love Matt Smith, but I think it was a little different from my perspective. So try to kind of, you know, I think it was a little different. When did I watch? I'm trying to think. how much, I think it was like a week or two, maybe a little bit more, I don't know, between me watching Time of the Doctor and Deep Breath. It was something like that, if I'm trying to remember how I recorded everything. I have not processed, and I didn't even know Matt Smith was going to go. I think most people who watched it in real time knew when Matt Smith was going, came to terms with it. Then there was probably a decent amount of time before season 8, right? And you knew Peter was gonna, it's just all this stuff. It hit me like a ton of fucking bricks. And yes, I needed that hand-holding scene. Everything's gonna be okay, Jess. Thanks, Matt Smith. Because, you know, my heart, okay? So as much as I think some people felt like there should have been a little bit of, you know, I do agree with the fact that it would have been nice to see kind of Capaldi's Doctor kind of prove to Clara that he really is the Doctor and he's the same person. But I will say that I feel like that happened during the season. It just didn't really happen in that episode. And I was all about my honey coming back. Thanks, honey. Thanks for making sure I'm okay. I felt like he was talking to me more than Clara. So, you know. Anyway. Okay, so and number 4 on this list for my top episodes is Death in Heaven. The reason that I kind of picked this is I felt, number 1, the kind of highlight of the episode for me was Peter and Michelle's chemistry. I thought that they were absolutely phenomenal together. I think that they are just 2 really great actors and they have a lot. It was so wonderful to see, and you may not agree, this is a point of opinions, but I felt like they portrayed not just the fact that they have kind of these quippy remarks and witty banter and stuff like that, but in, you know, enemies and trying to outsmart each other, all that stuff, but they also portrayed that they knew each other for such a long time. Like, I felt like they did a really good job of showcasing how much history there is between the Doctor and the Master without actually saying it, and that was just the highlight for me. I just loved it. I loved it so much. She's amazing. I loved, you know, like I talked about before, Danny's kind of wrap up of his story. Cyberman stories are some of my favorites. I get so fucking into Cyberman episodes, and I cannot tell you what, well, I guess I can. I mean, I think that they're in the first Cyberman episode I watched, which was a Mickey-centric episode, yes, but the first Cyberman episode that I watched, I thought it was terrifying. And yeah, their design of the Cybermen are not the most terrifying or intimidating, right? They don't scare you. Maybe they do for you, but for me, they didn't really scare me right off the bat. But when you think about the backstory of it all and kind of like how they kill people and use people, I have just this weird, I love Cybermen stories because I feel like they have a little bit more depth than some of the other villains in Doctor Who. That's just my own opinion, and maybe you don't agree, but whenever they show up I get pretty excited because I love a good Cyberman story. Like I said, I don't think that Death in Heaven was really as emotional as some other finales, some other, you know, kind of culmination of stories and stuff. But I really loved Peter's performance at the end. I loved Michelle's performance. I think that I loved the idea that, you know, she was raising a dead army within the Cybermen. Like, I loved the whole plot of that. And I thought that there were some really great emotional moments. There were moments that I felt really emotional, even though I may not be super connected to some of these characters. And I think that that was really, really great. And I was a big fan of the finale. So, yeah. Number 3 on the list is Last Christmas. Last Christmas is probably one of my favorite Christmas specials. There's a few that I really liked. I loved that it was really a terrifying episode, which I love a good scary episode. We all know that I'm all about the super kind of going more on the scary side. But it was kind of like wrapped in, masked, however you want to call it, in a jolly, like, Christmas special, which I thought was perfect for the first 12th Doctor after the 11th Doctor. You know what I mean? Like, the 11th Doctor, I think, had some of the greatest Christmas specials because it was magical and whimsy, and you can just imagine yourself drinking a hot cup of cocoa on Christmas Day or whatever, or you actually did that. But for me, I normally don't watch these on Christmas. But which I loved, but so now it's kind of like the new era, which is a little bit more under the surface, and there was really like a super terrifying story wrapped up in kind of this like Santa's here, you know what I mean? I really loved that. Sorry, just reading some of my notes. I loved the fact that we finally seemed to get kind of Clara and the Doctor kind of on the same page. They kind of she went through a bit in the episode seeing Danny, trying to come to terms with all of that as well. I really liked kind of how they portrayed that. I think it was a long, rough season for them when it came to accepting each other and stuff like that, and I loved that they really kind of got them on the same page. Probably one of my favorite scenes of the season was kind of the callback scene that they did. It made me really emotional. I loved that. And Shauna was great. I want Shauna in my life more often. She was great. Her dancing was awesome, and I just fucking loved her. So if we could see her again, I'd really appreciate it. There's a couple of you know, single story characters that I really, really love, and she was one of them. And I just think that it really kind of wrapped up the season. I think some people referred to it as a great coda for the season. I think that that's a great description of it. I really, really loved it. So yes, that's number 3 on the list. Number 2 is Listen. Listen was kind of the episode, it really gave me a little bit of hope for the 12th Doctor's run. I thought that there was a lot of emotional moments that I really, really loved to see. I love a terrifying episode. I love a psychological thriller. And I think that Doctor Who is among the top shows that do psychological scary, you know, better than the physical manifestation of scary. I love any sort of episode, and I know that this kind of turned out to just be sort of the Doctor's fears and stuff, and his own personal issues, whatever. But I love the, you know, I love the first bit that you're engaged right off the bat. It has something to do with like the whole like don't blink and you know, kind of different things, and like listen, you know, I like certain things when they kind of get a little more psychological than anything else, and I love that terrifying aspect of it. I love kind of that sort of final scene with Clara and, you know, her like hugging him from behind and stuff. I thought it was really, really emotional and sweet. And I felt like it made the Doctor slightly more relatable for me, that he has, you know, like different fears and stuff like that. I don't know. I really, really enjoyed that episode. And I thought it was very well written. I really loved it. And number 1, I don't think there's much competition. When I say that I rewrote this list so many times, number 1 never changed, because that is Flatline. Flatline was my favorite episode by far. By frickin' far. I loved it. I love that we had like kind of a comical aspect of it. The comical aspect of the TARDIS getting smaller and smaller and smaller. I don't know. I guess the only thing was like, well, the thing is I know that a lot of people don't, the issue that they have with Clara, or a issue, I'm not going to say that it's definitely, everybody thinks differently. Disclaimer. But a issue that some people have with kind of this season or whatever is that it was a little more focused on Clara, I think, than the Doctor. I think that that's an accurate assessment. I feel like she was a very prevalent part, and I feel like that's probably an issue that people have with this episode a bit, sort of, maybe, kind of. But I thought it was really important for Clara to kind of go into the Doctor's shoes. So she could experience, especially after Mummy on the Orient Express. I thought that it was like Mummy was kind of her understanding the Doctor a little bit better, and then Flatline was her literally having to sort of step into his shoes. I didn't really mind it for this particular episode because of that. I thought it was important, and that's kind of the journey they were going on for this whole season. This speech, I loved it. I was like, yes, 12, work. All right, I was all about it. I loved the fact that the villains were actually just bad things. I don't know what you want to call them, that just wanted to hurt people, and the Doctor was like, no bitch. That was my abridged version of the speech, no bitch. And I just absolutely loved Peter's performance in it. I thought the whole episode was funny, entertaining, scary. It just was my absolute favorite of the season. I'm sure that some of you could kind of tell that it was my favorite of the season because I was just really excited during that reaction, and I thought it was really, really good. Phenomenal. And I hope we get more episodes that are kind of like that moving forward. But I will say what's kind of interesting about this season kind of being so, there's different types of episodes and them focusing on different aspects of the characters. I don't really know where we're going for the next season. I have no idea. We could go in so many directions with both 12 and Clara. I'm really excited to see what that's going to kind of be like. So anyway, I hope that you guys are excited for my reactions to that as well. Okay, and so now the last little bit, I'm sorry that this is so long, you know, hopefully you guys made like a cup of coffee or a cup of tea or something to have while you watch this. I loved that this season kind of took a lot darker of a tone than I think we've had yet in New Who. I won't say Classic Who, but I will say in New Who, I kind of reinvented a bit of what it could be. In general, I loved that there was a lot of conflict within the relationships. I love that not everything was just roses and puppies, right? And so that brings me to the theme of the season. I normally try to come up with a theme of the season that I felt was really prevalent. I think with this season, you could come up with like 20 different themes. There was a lot going on. The thing that I'm going to say, an overall encompassing theme that I felt was really prevalent in this season, and that was no one's perfect. That was the best thing that I had a list of all sorts of different things as I was rewatching and stuff. Just so you guys know, I do rewatch the season and make all of these notes and stuff. But so I really couldn't get past the fact that no one's perfect. Everyone has flaws. Clara has flaws. Danny has flaws. The Doctor has flaws. Missy has a lot of flaws. She's probably too cuckoo, but you know, and what I loved is it's not even them saying that people aren't perfect, but sometimes scenarios and solutions aren't perfect. Kind of when the doctor was talking about, you know, sometimes you have options and there's no good option, but you have to just try to make the... I love that a lot of the theme of this season is that things can get messy. Over time, things can get messy, and you just have to do the best that you can. Am I a good man? Right? Well, I don't know. Everybody has a different definition of what a good man is, right? So that's perspective. Am I a good man? No, I'm an idiot in a box with a screwdriver that is just trying to do the best that he can. Same with like everyone else. Maybe not Missy. She's done, you know, but love you, girl, though. And I felt like that was such an important part of this season, is talking about the fact that things may not be perfect. Things are hard. And whereas you would think maybe 10 and 11, the man who regrets, the man that forgets, you know, kind of situation, kind of put it under the surface, right? The 12th Doctor is kind of having it out into the open to kind of be out there and honest with it. Does that make sense? Of the pain that he's gone through and stuff like that. And I like that. And that does lead to some messy situations. So in general, final thoughts, season 8, I thought was it my favorite season? Probably not my favorite. I loved certain parts of it. I loved the moral dilemmas. I loved the character development. And I just think that some things maybe weren't as executed as well as maybe they could have been. But at the end of the day, it was a joy going through this. I have so much fun going through these seasons with you guys, and kind of seeing how you guys felt about stuff, but also it's just kind of cool to sort of go through, and there is something really fun about getting to dive into a new Doctor, even if it's after your favorite leaves. But yeah, I hope that you guys enjoyed this review. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next week for the beginning of my season 9 reactions. All right, bye.